This day in sports history. It's December 6th, and on this day, the NFL had its coming out party. The Raiders had a fantastic finish, the Tennessee Volunteers had 6 turnovers and still won, and Ernie Davis became the first African American to win the Heisman Trophy. I'll have those stories plus a few more, and stick around till the end. I'll have a non-sports fun fact that once again may appeal to you true crime fans out there. Back in a moment to talk about Maroons, Reds, and the Orange. Stay with me. This episode is brought to you by the Stirling Soap Company. Christmas will be here before you know it, and you know what would make a great stocking stuffer for everybody in your family? Stirling Soap. From bar soap to shave soap, beard balm to lip balm, aftershaves and lotions, Stirling Soap has something for everyone on your list. Check out their seasonal soaps that will complement the scents of your home this holiday season. And they're more than just soap. They also have a full line of coffee straight from the Stirling Roastery. Find their full line of products at stirlingsoapcompany.com. December 6th, 1925 has been called the unofficial birthday of the NFL, even though the league had been around for 5 years by this point. It was called that for a couple of reasons. One, Grange and the Chicago Bears played the New York Giants at the Polo Grounds on this day and drew a crowd of 70,000, the largest assembled crowd to watch a pro football game at that point. And secondly, a game played on that same day on a frozen field in Chicago between the hometown Cardinals and the Pottsville Maroons. Now, the NFL would not have an official championship game until 1933. Prior to that, whoever had the best winning percentage was considered the champion. It could also get political, with owners voting who should be crowned the champ if things were close in the standings. Well, at this point in its history, the NFL had 20 teams based mostly in the Northeast and the Midwest. The Pottsville Maroons were a new team playing their first year in the NFL. The Chicago Cardinals were a more established team and had been around since the beginning. Now, one thing to know here is that while there were games on a schedule, it did not stop teams from arranging games with each other throughout the season. And that's how this game came about. Throughout the 1925 season, the Cardinals had proven themselves to be the best team in the West. After keeping Grange and the rest of the Bears out of the end zone the week before in a scoreless tie, the Cardinals were 9-1-1. After a 49-0 thumping of the Frankfurt Yellow Jackets on November 29th, improving their record to 9-2, the Maroons had proven themselves to be the best team in the East. Having never seen them play, but sensing an opportunity to make a little bit of money and figuring the guys on the Pottsville team to be a bunch of hayseeds, the Cardinals owner, Chris O'Brien, invited the Maroons to the big city of Chicago to play a game and decide who was truly the best. Now, it was not an official championship game, but everybody believed that whoever won this one would indeed be the best in professional football and hence the champ. The Chicago Tribune's headline read, "Cardinals play Pottsville for the pro title today." There was a tremendous amount of excitement for this game, so much so that a telegraph line was set up to deliver live play-by-play updates from Comiskey Park to the Hippodrome Theater in Pottsville, Pennsylvania. Tickets were sold in Pottsville at 50 cents apiece for a spot in the ballroom to follow the game remotely, and those tickets sold out in just a few hours. But the team had a problem. Their best player, Tony the Human Howitzer Latone, had broken his arm against Frankfurt. Now, he was the key cog in their running attack. Chicago did not know that, and it was important to keep that info under wraps as long as it could be. Latone would play, but he couldn't carry the football. He would be a decoy for as long as he could, hopefully drawing enough attention to let the other guys run free. One other issue, the weather. A storm blew into Chicago the night before and lasted throughout the game. The field was a solid block of ice, neutralizing speedier backs trying to make cuts around the end. The game was scoreless after the first quarter. There was a lot of punting in this era of the NFL. It was not uncommon to punt on first or second down if field conditions were bad and you were buried in your own end of the field. And it was just such a situation that resulted in the first points. Chicago was backed up to their end zone, and they punted on second down. Jack Ernst corralled it at midfield. looked up to see a wall of blockers in front of him, and he took off. And he made it all the way to the 5-yard line before he was brought down. 3 plays later, the Maroons scored to make it 7-0. But more trouble arose for Pottsville. On that scoring play, fullback Barney Wentz hit the frozen end zone hard, and he snapped his collarbone. The Maroons' second-best player was now unavailable, and those following along via telegraph back in Pennsylvania were devastated. The man sitting on the bench who was their only hope was a waifish 155-pound running back named Walter French, a guy who was nearly paralyzed in college playing football and was understandably a bit skittish about putting his nose into the pack. He was known as Little Walter French to most, but he was getting ready to come up big in this game. Later on in the second quarter, he took a handoff. He disappeared into the line and he squirted out the other side into frozen daylight. He scampered for 30 yards into Cardinals territory. On the next play, French danced lightly on his toes, dodged defenders like a matador dodges a bull, and he went another 30 yards for the touchdown. 14-0 Pottsville. In the fourth quarter, another French run put them on the doorstep again, and after a 3-yard touchdown run, Pottsville led 21-7. The Maroons' defense was stout all day, coming up with 2 goal line stands to prevent points, and when the final gun fired, the Pottsville Maroons had won 21-7 and declared the champs of professional football. Now, if the story had ended there is the possibility that a team may still exist in Pottsville today, mentioned alongside Green Bay and Detroit, the New York Giants, and the Cardinals as the originals, getting ready for a game tomorrow. But this wasn't the end of the story, and I'll have more in 6 days when the next chapter was written. So the other game I mentioned that made this the unofficial but recognized birth of the NFL took place in New York on this day 100 years ago. Red Grange was as well known an athlete as Babe Ruth after starring at the University of Illinois. He wrapped up his collegiate career on November 21st and was playing for the Chicago Bears by the 26th. His decision to play professional football, though, was an unpopular one. College football was king at this point. Pro football was just a bunch of rabble-rousing ne'er-do-wells. In college, he was a noble amateur. With the Bears, he was just in it for the money. But people still wanted to see him play, and he did not disappoint. So, as I said earlier, the Polo Grounds sold out their 70,000 seats to watch Grange and the Bears play the New York Football Giants. There were 3,000 standing room only tickets sold, with a reported 20,000 folks left outside the stadium without a way to get inside. 2 Joey Sterneman TD runs gave the Bears an early first quarter lead, and when Grange intercepted a pass in the fourth quarter and electrified the crowd with a 35-yard return for a touchdown, the Bears led 19-7, which was the final tally of the day. This game introduced a new set of fans to professional football, and it began the legitimization of the pro game. On top of that, it may have saved the Giants. Prior to this one, they were pretty heavy in debt, but ticket sales wiped out that debt and put them back in the black financially. Despite the loss on the field, they survived to play another day. On this day in 1970, the Oakland Raiders came up with a miracle finish. The 1970 Raiders liked to live life on the edge, and they made a living out of comebacks. One of those comebacks was not a game, but a player. George Blanda had been cut by the Raiders during the preseason, but rejoined the team and played his 21st professional season. His foot and his arm both proved crucial for Oakland in 1970. He led a comeback with his arm in October against Pittsburgh. His right foot kicked the last-second game winner to beat Kansas City the following week. Blanda came off the bench the next week in Cleveland to throw a late touchdown to tie the game, and then kicked a 53-yarder to beat the Browns. Amazingly, he did it again as a replacement of starter Darryl LaMonica and threw a late touchdown in a surprise win over Denver. A last-minute go-ahead field goal against San Diego provided another dramatic win for the Raiders. Well, on this day, the Raiders were in New York playing the Jets. New York took a 10-0 lead in the first half before LaMonica ended the scoring drought with a touchdown pass to Warren Wells. The Jets added another field goal to make it 13-7. After a LaMonica interception, It looked like the Raiders' magic was about to end. The Jets were forced to punt the ball away, though, with 30 seconds left. The Raiders were out of timeouts, and they had 70 yards of snow-dusted field in front of them. With the aid of a pass interference call, the Raiders advanced up the field to set up the final play of the game. Here's Raiders play-by-play man Bill King with the call from that day.
Well, this is stringing it right to the end. They may not have another one. It's 13-7 New York. 8 seconds to go. LaMonica comes in. Wells is back in for Biletnikoff. He's to the left. Sherman to the right. Loose quarterback coverage. They're way off. They don't want to give up the bomb. LaMonica's back. He looks. He's throwing deep for Wells in traffic. It's Maroon. Wells catches the ball. Wells has caught the ball. Wells has caught a touchdown. And it's tied 13-13.
Now, unfortunately, that was Warren Wells' last touchdown catch in the NFL. Legal troubles caught up with him in January of '71, stemming from a domestic abuse charge in 1969 and a violation of his probation earlier in 1970. Wells was actually arrested in the locker room following the Pro Bowl, and he never played football again. On this day in 1992, Jerry Rice caught his 101st touchdown of his career, moving past Steve Largent into first place on the all-time TD receptions list.
Wide receiver from Mississippi Valley State. He's out to the left. There it is, 101!
So this was Rice's 8th season in the league. Largent had accumulated his 100 touchdown catches in 14 seasons with the Seahawks. Rice would go on to nearly double the record, finishing with 197 touchdown catches in his 20-year career, a record that still stands today. In fact, there's no one really close to him. Number 2 is the retired Randy Moss at 156. The closest active player is LA Ram Davante Adams, who has 117. Interestingly, Rice was actually robbed of a TD reception earlier in the game. In the first half, Rice caught a ball at the 1 and snuck in the end zone inside the pylon, but the side judge ruled him out, postponing the record until the fourth quarter. In today's NFL with video review, Rice would have had the record earlier and 198 career touchdown catches. On this day in 1997, the Tennessee Volunteers turned the ball over 6 times and still won the SEC championship game. Tennessee was 10-1 and number 3 in the country coming into this one, and they were facing off against a 9-2 Auburn Tiger team ranked number 11 in the nation. This was a Peyton Manning, Jamal Lewis, Peerless Price-fueled offense, and yet it was sputtering a bit in this one. Through 3 quarters, the Vols had coughed up 4 fumbles. One of those was picked up and returned for a touchdown. 2 Manning passes had been picked off, and they'd had an extra point blocked and a run back for 2 points. Still, with all those issues, they only trailed by 6 with 11 and a half minutes to play in the 4th. Here's Keith Jackson with the call for ABC's coverage that night.
Quick throw, pass complete, first down the sidelines. It's Nash, and he is gone.
That was a Manning to Marcus Nash hookup that resulted in a 73-yard touchdown to put Tennessee up by 1, but there was still a lot of time left in this one. The Tennessee defense stepped up, though, and shut down Damian Craig and the Tiger offense, and then when Lewis broke off a 20-yard run on a 3rd and 5 with under a minute to play, it was celebration time for the Vols with the 30-29 win in the SEC title game. And on this day in 1961, Syracuse running back Ernie Davis became the first African-American to win the Heisman Trophy. In his senior season, he rushed for 823 yards and 12 touchdowns and caught 2 more for scores, leading the Orange to an 8-3 record, a win in the Liberty Bowl, and a number 14 final ranking. He was the top pick in the subsequent NFL draft, but sadly never played a game in the league. Davis died in 1963 from leukemia at the age of 23. And time now for today's That's Got Nothing to Do with Sports fun fact. In Victorian England, officers investigating the Jack the Ripper murders thought that maybe the image of the killer had been retained in the retinas of his victims. A photographer was instructed to concentrate his lens on the eyes of the victim. While that obviously did not pan out, it did begin the practice of crime scene photography. That's all I've got for you today. I'll have more tomorrow on This Day in Sports History. This has been an original Thrive Suite production.